Hi everybody, I'm Wally Gillum. I was very proud to be a trustee of the Taranaki Community Stadium Trust that was originally formed by Norman Reid and a few other trustees back in the 1980s, and for the primary role of securing an all-weather track for Taranaki, an all-weather athletics track for Taranaki. A lot of fundraising was done by Norman and his team, a lot of heartache at the time, looking at different areas. Unfortunately, it didn't come off, and although we'd raised $40,000 over that time, we just weren't able to pull it through. So the trust went into recess for a decade, and then in 1995-96 athletic season, I requested a meeting with the Athletics Taranaki after having done some costings at home for an all-weather track. I presented it to the Committee of Athletics Taranaki, and I was met with a little bit of skepticism I should say, because it had been done before and nothing had come off. But I was pretty determined that this time we were going to do it, and the costings were around the $1 million mark, and I thought that back at that time $1 million would not be too hard to secure. So we looked at sites and to see where we could have it around New Plymouth, because that's where the population base is and where the major secondary schools are. And we looked at Webster Field, which was not available. We went to Sacred Heart College and looked at the Sacred Heart grounds, and it was perfect. River-based, more than enough for an athletics track. We had Mike Gibson, the surveyor, come and check it out for us, and he took samples, and we spent hours down there and just taking those samples, and he analysed them, and it was good. So we were able to do it. So I took on the role of being the fundraiser, I guess, but we needed to have the trust back again. So we took the trust out of recess, secured a few people of influence onto the board, and away we went. The first thing to do was to ask the Sacred Heart Board of Trustees whether we could have a track there. The ground belonged to the Diocese based in Wellington. The permission was given, so then we had to get serious about fundraising. Went to the District Council, because without council funding you can get nothing can be secured. Unfortunately, the council would not come to the party because it was on privately owned school grounds, and that was just the way it was. And so without that I couldn't get any other funding at all. So then we had to look around, and we talked about what we're going to do, and one of the main areas to establish a track was in Inglewood. Inglewood was the home of Athletics Taranaki for when we had Taranaki champs. So we thought, let's have a look at Jubilee Park. We come down to Jubilee Park, and we had some plans drawn up, and the track could fit here, but we had to move the rugby field from memory 8 metres north from where it was. So that was, that seemed to be okay to do. We didn't talk to the rugby people at that stage. We thought it's just moving a field, and so we carried on. We then went to the council to see if we could secure finance for it, and I was looking to secure $300,000 from the council. I got turned down time after time with the council. They could see no benefit of establishing an all-weather athletics track, let alone being out of the main area of New Plymouth. So I started to get a bit desperate. I had one last stint at getting it across the approval from the council, and that was I got 3 athletes, a child athlete, a veteran athlete, and an athlete in a wheelchair. to come in through the council chamber doors and go around the table. And then I stood up after the third one had been and said, as you people know, there are 4 members in a relay team, and to get the funding across the line, we need you to be the last runner in that team to get us over. It worked. We got the money, be it over a 3-year period. They were prepared to give us $100,000 over 3 years, but that was the start. And I talked to the TSB Bank at the time, and the TSB Bank agreed to give us interest-free funding for that additional money on the provision that the council gave a letter of security, which they did. So then I went to all the clubs at night time at the meetings around the province, sold it to them, got some money from the clubs, then went to the South Taranaki District Council, the Stratford District Council, the Taranaki Regional Council. They provide funding, some of it quite significant. I went to the community trusts around the country that were whoever I could put an application in for funding, and we were lucky enough to secure funding from 2 of them. I then went to the TSB Community Trust, which is now Toy Foundation, and they were very, very kind, and they could see the benefit of it, and they gave us funding as well. So that got us on our way, but we were a lot under what we needed for a track which I was hell-bent on getting, which was the Mondo track, which was the track that the Olympic Games are run on around the world since 1968. And I wasn't going to move from that. And although we had to get a little bit of tweaking done by Mondo to get us across the line, we made it. There was no athletics track that Mondo had installed in Australasia, and we were going to be the first. Excitement built around the country. I had the CEO of Athletics Taranaki come up and speak to funders on our behalf. I'm sure it helped. I spent a lot of time going to councillors after hours to sow seeds to try and get more money. And then we went to the TET, the Taranaki Electricity Trust, our saviours, and we met with Bill Watson, Shirley Stevens. Shirley Stevens in particular was so supportive of what we were doing, and additional funding we needed for equipment and facilities. Shirley was the go-to person. Bill Watson was the chairman of the TET Trust at the time, and he also was right behind us. He could see the benefits for the region, and Inglewood had missed out on funding for quite some time from the trust, and here was a project that they could get in behind and really push. It was agreed that we would call the stadium TET Stadium. It was not an issue at all. From there the funding came. I don't know how many hours and how many people were behind the scenes. It was wonderful to be part of it. There are people here now like Kerry Austin, Doc as he's known. He's still working hard here. He worked hard at the time to get this through with his father. And the people that we brought onto the trust as time went by, early days it was the Inglewood Rugby Club, Inglewood Athletics, New Plymouth Athletics and Athletics Taranaki, because the older members of the trust thought they'd done their bit and they pulled out, and we put new people on with them. But now, 40 years later, after that trust was established, we have this absolutely incredible facility here, one that generations of athletes will benefit from, and rugby players, because of the facilities we've got here. We've already seen our Olympian Zoe Hobbs from from 7 or 8 years of age here, competing, going on to represent New Zealand. Just absolutely outstanding, and I think that from a personal point of view, you know, I was very honoured and privileged to be, I guess, the right person at the right time, and it was just an honour to work with all the trustees I did over those years, and you know, may the trust continue to benefit from the work that was done in the past. Thank you.